Skole ngambulo luku. With whatever we do. Jioni safu no la. With whatever we do. Hale yi demu new school. Nyepamne ne kudlukula. Nyepangi ragala gena. Nyepamne ne kudlukula. Ibuloke nungoto ni beti sola. Ibuloke dato ni betoto.
Mingi Congo.
Lamin.
Na?
Lamin te jibe norin te nyame Lamin.
Kabona wulo kono.
Wulo kono nyite mo Lamin.
Pabilenki.
Muna ngata afongole.
Haina.
Ngata. Ngoto le. Fabrama.
Mingi. Baba nyola.
Ngoto le Fabrama.
Namu jumara kan kuma ni ten.
Fabrama.
Jumara mu.
Ndele bare muso.
Nunda mana.
Kamo kata.
Jamani mbere.
Alindo ko. Bari ngoto mon kontande.
Bari jamani fana na mundu wala mon kontan.
Ngoto minaka ngala min je fon filita la min jibe nori nyala.
Lamin ila siran sama ne benki. Yala so tol sayni no ko ngol ko momo.
Ngoto.
Nam.
Itedinte yalo ne Lamin hakilo diata bake karamngoto. Anu santeng ministry ko di ngole si suko na amanke ko do holiday la
si bitun
Bagona ringa.
ala ni ko kede namo balo
ala ni na ko na karta bulo be damna ala ni je
ngoto
nam
ngoto mon kontan fere
jamani mu ne keda
ite ka Lamin ti wulo ko no nyintay mon ko do fete malo Lamin nyande sila be la moy kala karango
jamani karamol be soron ne ko fasita wulo ko no ko
karamol ni ko karamol soron da amanke comme holiday lem ngoto dini wo nyanta sila la ala karango la moy yamen kaben fue man kontan andamate
alla nyin kombo courant adan dal kombo len do la karamol le soron da do am courant ma do kombo e don dol fana na karamol soron je karamol soron Lamin ada lo nyino la aman tara fe na sokon ala nekela
am Lamin ite fete malo ko lesino be ke kar jota
Nga fine.
e ko yana di Lamin yamu na fonye
kabim bina kan ntambita nteri maning Fatu ntambita la suka dini wol bebe siri be la moyka
Faru danso am fana tambira jele ni subala nga je dini ngol be je talanta nen kili warol e be serin jele
sa Lamin fadante ku kili wo ke no la ba Lamin bitaka wulo ko no nyinta mo Lamin
amandara fenela
ite dine ko ni man si yakari lesino la moy radio to balon na
mo ne ka ke afone ba yaran ndi alon
telentel jikot
afone ba mo be ke
ite balon tel be jikritel ni man karambe ku kele yaje nata karana mbasa malaya ay tarije
par ñarande kombo courant ho findira kombo ide na raje ni sonka bay ko Lamin ma ñata la wulo ko karam mo be so da afone membe
ko to wole nati bayo ngalle ni Lamin kuntala kombo courant o ka fa me kombo courant asototal wala kinay ko e si suwo kono bari ni ko e si suwo kono be karangol di ke la radio lin telel to hani tele masoto to nyaay man tele soto da bu radio be bulen koto batiri sanga ay si ay alamo
sa do kala
nyaadi ko ta o bulaji
ado kala nyaadi
kamun ke nyaadi
radio abe wala mo la be mona falaje
ibe la karandirol kala jele
ti talle be radio ko men ka karandirol
ila subjector baby jele baby jele
wala nan ka coco moy fa dan so wolya ngom metambi ka ngadi ni wolje be ikadum bungo ko kada marmo
ma asototal de
Lamin mala be kara wala de
bari lafta alal ideal on ko inde every year second wala fourth
muna ni ko ma ko ndego folle sinila mba ndele sinilo ne ba
say mba foke wole fango yen wulindi yalo famo keta bat ñu fana bulata ko ko me yen nati jambi Lamin nyanta karana ndel be jiko be nyine ka ya bulay kara wulo kono ta kilar ya bambalo yo be bulaje ko to dinni ngoy si ayala le sino la moy radio
wara ka munda kara mo man soro Lamin nyanta kara si so na regular ko momo say mi do ni ko no kera
Mengi bruze
ndelo ko la da ba rosa no radio ba no bari woro radio ni abe do ngamra do mandembe buljan dala nyara nyar wo fram ko fendi mo la Lamin tayra ba rosa
bara te ku folo ajibe nori nya Lamin tamete ku
mengi mun na re
teku
bari ko do famo ke
ja image nani nyambol si zol le keje kisigi man si zol no le kafun ka nyoma bari nyambu kino ni manya na ka fendi ni nambe ko so la ga
ngalle limbeta de be nyambo do dilanna
nyara nim ko rin fennat nyara nata
bari famo kada
ngata bungono tammi bungono nyara ngando ko fele ko ke baru nganda ni pelo la ndija
iyo betar la
bungono bismillah bisu diara
Pendulala ye fongo tanka sina dolu tanka koro korota
Hello viewers and listeners. Welcome once again to our Science LBS presentation. Today our topic is the respiratory system. But before we go into the lesson proper, we have an assignment that we were supposed to do. So this assignment, I hope you have done your assignment well. So today, before we move on to the lesson proper, that is respiratory system, you owe me 4 questions that you need to answer. The first question was, which organ is the blood pumping machine? Which organ is the blood pumping machine? In our previous lesson, we discussed that the blood pumping machine is the heart. So your answer is heart, H-E-A-R-T, heart. Then number 2, the question asks, name 3 organs of the blood circulatory system. Name 3 organs of the blood circulatory system. You have many organs there, but you limit yourself only to 3. One of them could be heart. The other one could be arteries, veins, capillaries, etc. Any of these 3 is good. If you have heart, capillaries, arteries, fine. If you have arteries, veins, and capillaries, fine. If you have capillaries, veins, arteries, fine. Any 3 of these is good. Check your work and mark your book. Number 3, the smallest blood vessels are the dash dash. The smallest blood vessels are the dash dash. The previous lesson, again, we discussed the size of the blood vessels, and we have named them. We said they are the arteries, the veins, and the capillaries. So the smallest among the blood vessels are the capillaries. C-A-P-I-L-L-A-R-I-E-S, capillaries. Then number 4, the question is, which blood vessels have the thickest walls? Which blood vessels have the thickest walls? The blood vessel that has the thickest wall are the arteries. They have the thickest wall. The arteries are the thickest walls. These were the answers I was expecting from you. Number 1, heart is the answer. Number 2, heart, arteries, veins, and capillaries. Any of them is correct. Any 3 of them you have in your book is fine. Then number 3, the answer is capillaries, and number 4, the answer is arteries. Now you can cross-check your work against what I have for you. Then finally we move to the lesson proper. The lesson proper today is the respiratory system. The respiratory system is another function in the body. There are organs, collective organs, that are responsible for this system too. The function of the respiratory system is to bring oxygen into the body and to get rid of carbon dioxide. Here, bringing in oxygen into our body and getting rid of carbon dioxide, we said it earlier, we said animals breathe in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. Animals breathe in oxygen and give out carbon dioxide. So this statement is telling you The respiratory system is the taking in of oxygen into our body and taking out of the carbon dioxide. It says air containing oxygen is breathed into these lungs and air containing carbon dioxide is breathed out. Right. Now, the oxygen and the carbon dioxide, they are all contained in the air. They are component of air. So the part of the air that is oxygen is the one that we breathe, animals breathe into their systems. When this oxygen is breathed into the system, it gets into the lungs, right down to the bottom of the lungs, and where it will now be transported to the rest of the body through the blood. And finally, when it is being utilized by the body, it has to, the byproduct of that oxygen has to come out. That is called the carbon dioxide. That is the one that we breathe out. Oxygen releases the energy stored in food. Oxygen releases the energy stored in our food. This energy that we have in our food, that is stored in our food, oxygen releases it out. The release of energy is called respiration. That process of releasing the energy from the food, from the energy that is stored in the food, is what we call respiration. The organs of the respiratory system are many. One of them is the nose and the mouth. Then you have the windpipe. You have the lungs, the ribs, and the diaphragm. These are the major organs of the respiratory system. Each of them played a very vital role in respiration. Now, the nose or the mouth, this is the first organ that receives the oxygen during the process of respiration. We breathe in oxygen through our nose in normal circumstances. But where there is a blockage on our nostril, we can always resort to mouth. In rare cases, we can also breathe in oxygen using our mouth. Now, this is just like this. Now, this is our nose. If this is the nose, then this is the mouth. Through the nose or through the mouth is where the oxygen gets into. And in normal circumstances, it gets in through the nose. Now, when it gets through the nose, the oxygen is passed through a tube called the windpipe. It is passed through a tube called the windpipe. It will pass through this windpipe and get into these lungs. The lungs are balloon-like. They are balloon-like structures. They are balloon-like structures, two of them, one on the left and one on the right, in our chest cavity. The oxygen that we breathe in will get into these lungs, right into the bottom of the lungs. And at the bottom of the lungs, there are linings there where it will now join the bloodstream. It will now finally join the bloodstream, of which the blood now is going to carry it to all parts of our body. Every part of our body needs this oxygen. when the oxygen is being now used, now that oxygen now has been used, the byproduct of that oxygen also has to come out. It's no more wanted by the body. It's no more wanted by the body. It will also come through the nose and go out. Under the lungs here, there is what we call the diaphragm. It's a tissue. It's a tissue, long and very strong tissue. This diaphragm helps us in breathing in and out of air. If you can put your hands on your chest here, if you put your hands on your chest here, you breathe in. Let's do that. Put your hands on your chest or on your ribs. We breathe in heavily. Let's do it again. What did you realize? We realized that when you breathe in, there is an action that is taking place. When you breathe in, the ribs, what? The ribs go up. The ribs go up, right? Put your hands again. If you breathe in, the ribs go up. And if you breathe out, what happens? The ribs come down. The ribs come down. When you breathe up, when you breathe in, the ribs go up, and when you breathe out, the ribs come down. What is responsible for that? This diaphragm that I told you here at the bottom, this tissue here called the diaphragm, is responsible. When you breathe in oxygen, the ribs goes up simply because it will also it will force the lungs to go up. This tissue will push the lungs to go up. That is why when you breathe in, the ribs go up. When you breathe out, the ribs come down. Then when the ribs come down, the diaphragm will also relax. When you breathe in, it will form this shape. When you breathe out, it will come lie flat. That's the diaphragm. So this action is going on when you breathe in and when you breathe out. When you breathe in breathe in oxygen, the ribs go up, and when you breathe out, the ribs comes down. That's one of the functions of the diaphragm. Then once the lungs have already received this oxygen, I said, every part of your body will need it. And it is the blood that is going to transport it to all parts of our body. And when it is being utilized by the body, then the byproduct of the oxygen, known as the carbon dioxide, will have to come out. It will pass through the same windpipe through our nose or mouth and come out. If you look at our diagram here, that's the respiratory system diagram. You have the nose, number one. Number two, you have the mouth. Number three, you have the windpipe. Number four, you have the lung. You have the left lung and the right lung. And number five, you have the diaphragm. These are the organs of the respiratory system that I was trying to explain here. They are all important and they work collectively. In every system, there are 2 or 3 organs that are working together collectively so that they can function, so that the system can function. It says when we breathe in air, air passes down the windpipe, into the lungs. These lungs are balloon-like shapes. Some of the oxygen in the air dissolves in water, lining the lungs and passes into the blood. When it gets into the lungs, it will dissolve with water. It will dissolve in, the oxygen dissolve in water and will get to the linings at the bottom of the lungs, and finally it will join the blood to all parts of the body. Remember, even the hair on your body needs this oxygen. It is carried by the blood to all parts of the body. Fine. The blood is the carrier, is the transport of all the nutrients and the oxygen that the body needs. The food is also carried by the blood to all parts of the body. The blood does not only carry oxygen as it is saying, but it also carries the food, what the good part of the food that we are eating, the nutrients, that is the minerals, the vitamins, the proteins, etc. It is the blood that is going to transport it to all parts of our body. The food is acted on by oxygen and energy is released. When the food we eat gets into the small intestine, the good part of it has been collected, then transported to all parts of the body. Then oxygen will also act on it and produce what we call energy. That's the time now we will be strong enough to be doing our work. Carbon dioxide is produced as a waste product when energy is produced. When energy is produced, then carbon dioxide is going to be the waste product. It's carbon dioxide, we shortly say, is the waste product of the energy when energy is produced. It is carried into the blood, to the lungs, and breathed out. Like I said, when the oxygen is being transported to all parts of the body and the oxygen acted on or act on the food, what happened? When it acts on the food, then energy is released. When the energy is released, it will produce what we call carbon dioxide. And this carbon dioxide is no more wanted by the body. It has to come out. It will also pass through the same, through the same windpipe out through our nose. We breathe it out. So that's basically about the respiration. Respiration is the taking in of air, is the breathing in of air, or breathing in of oxygen into our body, and breathing out of carbon dioxide out of our body. Okay? The composition of air, you have oxygen there, you have carbon dioxide there, you have so many of them there. But the one that we need in the air here is what we call the oxygen. The oxygen is the type of air that animals, not only human beings, but it's the type of air that animals breathe into their system. So when we breathe this into our systems, it will get through our nose in normal circumstances. When there is a blockage in our nose, then we can use our mouth to breathe in oxygen. And this oxygen will now pass through a long tube known as the windpipe. Through this windpipe, it will now branch half. The oxygen will branch into two. Okay? Now you have two lungs in our chest cavity, one on the left-hand side and one on the right-hand side. Right? Then the oxygen will get into the lungs. Right into the lungs. This oxygen now will dissolve in water, join the blood through blood linings. And it is going to be transported to all parts of our body. After which the oxygen is now going to act on the food that we eat. When the oxygen acts on the food that we eat, then it will produce energy. That's the time we get strong. And the waste product will come out, which is known as the carbon dioxide. The waste product will come out, known as the carbon dioxide. This will come out through the same windpipe out in our body. If somebody could ask you, name the organs of the respiratory system. The organs of the respiratory system are nose, mouth, windpipe, lungs, diaphragm. As at now, these are some of the organs that we can tell you. As you go up to higher heights, the organs will increase. As at now, we only stop at nose, mouth, windpipe, the lungs, and the diaphragm. That's the diagram, like we said earlier. It contains all these 6 of them, or 5 of them. When we breathe in, like we said, air passes down the wind into the lungs. And some of this get into the lungs. It will finally dissolve in the water lining and join the blood to be transported to all parts of our body. And finally, the oxygen will act on the food that we eat and produce us energy or release energy. Carbon dioxide, as a waste product, will be breathed out. So, in short, we say respiration. We say respiration is the breathing in of oxygen in our body and breathing out of carbon dioxide. Respiration is the breathing in of oxygen in our body and breathing out of carbon dioxide. So we can say this is what we call respiration. Respiration is the breathing in of oxygen in our body and breathing out of carbon dioxide. So we move to the exercise that we have. Fill in the correct organ to complete the sentences. Fill in the correct organ to complete the sentences. The first one is saying, the dash dash takes in air. The dash dash takes in air. That is, which among the organs takes in air into our body? Right? Which among the organs takes in air or breathes in air? Number 1, the answer is nose. If you have nose, mark it correct. Or if you have mouth, mark it correct. These are the ones that take in air in our body. You either breathe in air through the nose or you breathe in air through the mouth. Any one of them that you have is correct. Number 2, the dash dash pulls the lungs up and down. The dash dash pulls the lungs up and down. Like I said earlier, when you breathe in, your lungs, the ribs move up, and when you breathe out, they come down. What is responsible? What organ pulls up the lungs and the lungs up and down? The organ that is responsible for that is the tissue under the lungs known as the diaphragm. D-I-A-P-H-R-A-G-E-M. Diaphragm. Then number 3, question 3. The dash dash carries air to the lungs. The dash dash carries air to the lungs. What carries air, or what organ receive the air from the mouth or nose and carry it into the lungs? The question is asking the organ that receive the air the organ that receives the air from the nose or mouth and pass it on to the lungs. That one is no other one other than the windpipe. So windpipe is the answer. Number 4, the dash is a sponge-like and allows gas exchange. The dash is a sponge-like and allows gas exchange. What is that? The sponge-like structure which allows gas to exchange in our body is the lung or the lungs. Is the lung. You have 2. When it is talking of 2, you have to add S, lungs. The lungs are sponge-like structures that allow exchange of gas into our body. That is, they allow taking in oxygen and giving out carbon dioxide. That is our exercise. The exercise, dash takes in air. The one that takes in air is either the nose or the mouth. The dash pulls the lungs up and down. That pushes the lungs up and down. When we are breathing in and out. Is the Number 3, the dash carries air to carries air to the lungs is the windpipe. Number 4, the dash is like and allows gas exchange. That is, which organ is a sponge-like structure and allows the exchange of gas? It is the lungs. So this is the assignment. This is the exercise. Then we move on to our assignment. I want you to finish this assignment before we meet again. It says, draw the diagram of the respiratory system and label the lungs, the nose, the mouth, ribs, and diaphragm. Draw the diagram of the respiratory system, label the lungs, nose, mouth, ribs, and diaphragm. Please don't refer to any diagram. Draw it on your own without referring to any text or drawing.